In this session, I would like to teach you how to use JavaScript. And especially we are going to use the JavaScript in Django. Oh, it's okay. Yeah. And what we're going to learn is the JavaScript, the concepts, and then what is the statements in the JavaScript and how the control flow works on the JavaScript. So these are the parts that we are going to learn. You will learn the basic JavaScript. Of course, I cannot give you all the things in JavaScript. So what is JavaScript and what is the syntax, okay? And how we can implement the JavaScript into the web pages. You already know the head part in the HTML and then body in the HTML. So we are going to learn more about those. And then how can we use the JS file or JavaScript file as an external file. And we will learn about the operator, data type, and control flow, like the conditional iteration, and how we can make functions in the JavaScript. And you need to learn also about how to debug. So this is one of the important aspects on the computer programming. When we are dealing with the JavaScript, we need to understand first about the HTML. D in front of the HTML means it is related to the dynamic. So we want to know how we can give the dynamic behavior for the client. Dynamic behavior at the client side. If you have, let's say, your website, okay, and then let's say I want to drag and drop, okay, or I just want to put, let's say I click here and then it will show some kind of figures. So actually, we need to use JavaScript for this issue. And also, if we want to click this one and then we want to show an image here, it means, yeah, we will need some style, CSS. What is the box? Is it in the round box, or it is in the rectangular or rounded box? And what is the color, and etc. is related about style. Or if you want to have a very dynamic behavior like this menu, so you want to make a menu setup on the web. Yeah, all of those things we call it as the dynamic behavior. So the dynamic HTML. What is dynamic HTML? Dynamic HTML makes possible a web page to react and change in response to the user's action. So it is only like what we call as the front end. If you understand front end, it means what the user see is something that the user can do something with the web browser. And people say that this kind of front end is dealing with the HTML plus the CSS plus the JavaScript. So the newest one, yeah, the technology in the DHTML is more related to the XHTML. X means the extensible. There are the newcomers, HTML, which is HTML 5.5, but it is beyond of the scope of our course. I will not teach the newest one, but the XHTML means, yeah, it is always upgraded. And we know the CSS. We learn about the simple bootstrap, how we can make some kind of beautiful design. So you have some, I guess you will have some idea to make your beautiful page. And of course, JavaScript. You need to understand JavaScript to make a dynamic behavior. And DOM. DOM means data object model. If we have the data object model, means we have a kind of database, and we can extract that database and show it into our web browser. So some people draw the DHTML, something like this one. So the DHTML is combination of your CSS and your HTML and your JS. It means if you want to make a dynamic HTML, you cannot just use HTML. You cannot use only CSS. You cannot use only JS, but you need to combine those three items in the web browser. So the DHTML, it is the HTML plus CSS plus JavaScript. You know, the HTML, it defines the website through the semantic tag. We know the heading, we know the paragraph, we know the list, and etc. And CSS, it defines the rules of styles for presenting every aspect of HTML document. We have like font. Okay, what is the family? What is the size? What is the color? What is the weight? And we have the background. Maybe we want to set the background color. We want to set the image position and repeat. Or maybe we want to deal with the layout and position. So any objects on the page will be able for the layouting or the positioning. And the JavaScript defines the dynamic behavior. So what is dynamic behavior? It is a programming logic for interaction with user. So most of the JavaScript are related with the interaction with the user and how to handle events. For example, mouse. Your mouse is moving. And what kind of behavior will be available in your web? Some of the features of the HTML is the dynamic content. What is the meaning by dynamic content? So the Internet Explorer, IE, it supports the dynamic content. So with the DHTML, you can change the content of the page after it is loaded. So if you, I think nowadays there are many web browsers also support this dynamic content. In Chrome, they also support, but still some old web browser, they do not support with this kind of dynamic content. For example, also the positioning and animation. It is the ability to place HTML element at a specific point on the page relative to another element or the browser windows itself. So you can have animation. So the new ISD HTML, they have animation, so people will have some kind of interest, or they are trying to attract more viewers. And the HTML, it also contains the font download. So for example, in the Internet Explorer, it can dynamically download fonts for use in the web page. So you can also design, if you want to design your HTML on the Word file, you can use the font on the Word file for creating the HTML file. Data binding, because of the dynamic issues, so the HTML has a feature that require you easily bind individual elements in your document to data from another source. So nowadays, you can see the CSV online or DB online, or if you have the CSV file, and if you have it and you want to convert to Excel file, so there is a plugin in the web, and it can bind with the data. And also the dynamic styles. I cannot show you many examples for the one. It is one of the key feature of the HTML, and you can use the CSS. So you can quickly change the appearance and formatting of elements in the document without adding or removing elements. So those are some features that we can check if we use the HTML. And for this course, I'm going to teach you only the JavaScript because the CSS is more about the design. So I will skip the CSS part. So the JavaScript means the dynamic behavior in web page. What is JavaScript? JavaScript is a front-end scripting language. Front-end scripting language. And it has been developed by Netscape for dynamic content. Have you heard about Netscape? No? So it was an old web browser. It is very old web browser. And I think now we cannot have the Netscape because it's already stopped for the production. And at that time, there are only a few web browsers like Internet Explorer, Netscape, and Netscape was very popular at the time because the web browser can give a very dynamic behavior. And also it mentioned that in the Netscape, actually it is lightweight. The Netscape actually is very light. However, there are many limited capabilities. So that's why, because of the least limited capabilities, they cannot competitive. They cannot compete with other web browsers. So now they have no development team, so they stop the production. But the JavaScript still exists because the code is very strong and is very powerful, and it can be combined with other programming language like HTML. So the JavaScript actually is lightweight because based on the Netscape it's very light, but it still have some limited capabilities. And it can be used as an object-oriented language. When you are studying your programming language, it is important if the programming language can be used as object-oriented language or not. Because if it is not available for the object-oriented language, there will be some limitation to expand the programming language. And the JavaScript is a client-side technology. It will be embedded in your HTML page, and it will be interpreted by the web browser. People say it is simple and flexible. We will check whether it is really simple or flexible. And it is powerful to manipulate the DOM. DOM is the data object model. What is the advantages of JavaScript? The JavaScript allows interactivity, such as you can implement form validation. If you still remember, we have form. Let's say we have name, and then we have address, and then we have other things, and then you want to submit a form. So every items that you fill in on the web browser, it will be sent to the database. But before we send all the data into the database, there should be a validation or form validation. So JavaScript can be used to deal with this form validation. I think in the next few weeks, we will learn how to use the Ajax, okay, asynchronous JavaScript, to deal with form validation. And react to user actions. For example, when the users use some key like F5, F6, or Control Enter, Shift S, and so on. It can give some convenience. Changing an image on moving mouse over it. So if I move my mouse, so like say this one, yeah, I can draw a line. So in JavaScript, we have also this kind of function. It can also show the section of a page. So whether you want to appear the page or disappear, or you want to load the content and changing dynamically. So we can make some kind of frame. The frame one is run by the JavaScript one, and the frame two is run by the JavaScript two, and so on. So we can make the content loading and changing dynamically. Performing complex calculations. In JavaScript, there's also the library for machine learning. In that case, you want to make your server works more efficient, then there might be a possibility to write your machine learning algorithms in the JavaScript. Custom HTML controls. We can make scroll table, or we can resize the table, or we can make some pages about the tables. And yeah, we can implement the Ajax functionality. So this is the asynchronous JavaScript. Okay, so we will learn about this Ajax later. So what can JavaScript do? So there are so many functions, okay, like yeah, it can handle events. When you move your mouse, yeah, it can figure out what the mouse is doing now. Can read and write HTML elements and modify the DOM tree. So if you have the HTML elements like P, paragraph, so we can make a new HTML element by making a function, and we can modify the DOM tree. This is the data object model. We can validate the form data. We can access or modify browser cookies. Okay. So nowadays there are many websites from the foreign website. They ask you to accept the cookies. So we will also learn a little bit about cookies. Yeah. This is not the guacha. This is not the cookies that you eat, but this is the cookie in the internet. How they put some keys in your local drive, and how the web browser can recognize that cookies. And it can detect the user browser and operating system. So if I'm using Windows, the Django can understand my operating system. If you are using Mac, the Django will also understand what is your operating system. The same with Chrome, Internet Explorer, and other web browsers. They can detect your operating system. In some cases, the JavaScript works well on one user browser, but it does not work well on the other browsers. That's why we call it there is some kind of limited capabilities. And JavaScript can be used as object-oriented. It can handle exception. It can perform asynchronous server calls, or let's say this is Ajax. Okay, so let's make a new project from the scratch. Okay, let's make the basic JS. And I guess when you create one project, you will have the folder templates. Yeah, I will make a new project. I guess by now you already know how to make your project at the first time. Okay, basic JS. Okay, this is the interpreter. I think is enough. And then okay, we have this following configuration. Okay, let me see. Okay, I have folder templates here. Now, let's create a very simple file. Now I would like to make views.py and let's make it in the folder basic JS. And this command will be used to call the index.html. So let me make this is the folder basic JS, and then let's make a new Python file. Okay, let's make a new Python file, and the new Python file name will be views.py. And let's copy and paste this code. So I have one function, home. In the home function, I would like to render the index.html later. In the urls.py, I think the remaining are the same. You can include this part only. In the urls.py, okay, you need to include. Okay, so here you need to also call the include, and then you need to also include the from.use import home. Oh, sorry. Okay, so you need to include this include function, and then I want to go to views, it means the views.py, and I want to import the function home. So here I have one function which is home, and I want to import it into this file. I'm adding one more line in the URLs. It is to call the home, and yeah, I will just make it the name as home. And what we are trying to do here is to show the index.html. Now, what is index.html? So I have very simple JavaScript. So you can go to the templates and then make a new HTML. And in this case, I will just use index.html. So replace the code in the HTML with the code that I gave in the PowerPoint. We will discuss more about this one. So this message is a script from the JavaScript, and this statement is to show a pop-up message. So if you are using the older version of Django, I think you need to renew this settings.py, and in the template section, you need to change this items so you can have the base here plus single quote and backslash templates. Yeah, if your Django is older than 4, I guess you need to use this one. But if you're already using the Django 4, you don't need to do this one. Okay, let's start. Okay, once you run, oh, interesting. It is still using Django version 3.2.5. Okay, now you can see hello JavaScript. So when we use the alert function, it will show what you want to print. If you click OK or again, then finish. So this is only alert. Okay. And in the alert, we have hello JavaScript. So it is kind of hello world function. Now you can also do other things in the JavaScript here. Why do I know this is a JavaScript? Because I'm giving the script, okay, as I mentioned to you, this is a scripting language, and the type then the script is text and it is based on the JavaScript. If you put like this statement, it means all the code that you write here is the JavaScript. At the first, we have alert. So alert means we want to show the text in the web page. What is the, sorry, this one is a pop-up, okay, alert, hello script. But what about if I want to write in the document? Okay, if I refresh, you will get hello JavaScript. If I press again, oh, sorry, I didn't update it. Okay, I'll let me copy this one. So I will run again. Again, yes, you can see JavaScript rules. Okay, so the previously, yeah, you can see this kind of pop up here. I think you don't need to, I don't need to explain about this one. You already understand it from your previous sections here. Now you can see that document.write. What does it mean? I'm going to write in the document of that HTML because I'm using the index.html. So the document here is the index.html. And I'm going to write what is the message? It is JavaScript rules. So when you want to use the JavaScript can be placed into 3 different parts. We can place it in the script, in the tag head. So if you are still in the head, you can also use. If you are using body, you can also use. But you know, I don't know. People said it's not recommended. Even though sometimes it is useful, but it is not recommended. If you want to use the JavaScript, it is better to put it in the head. And also the JavaScript is available also in the external files. So let's say if you want to get some idea from other website, you can extract the JavaScript and then you can put it into your browser, or you can put into your system. And because it is an external file, you maybe need just to have one script to connect your JavaScript or to connect your web browser to the JavaScript external file. The files usually have .js extension. Let's say that this script src. So I'm going to check the script.js and the type is text JavaScript. If you still remember, you have this one. It is for the comment. And then for every script, we need to start and end, like the HTML. So what I explained here, the external files, if you save into a separate file with the .js extension, then it is highly recommended because you separate the code. If not separating the code, your code will be so complex. It consists of CSS, it consists of JavaScript, it consists of HTML. So it is not recommended to put the JavaScript in the head, but yeah, it is highly recommended to put as an external file. And the JS files can get cached by a browser. So if you have some issues with your computer because of the memory issue, I think you can also figure out if the JS affect your browser, also affect your computer or not. The JavaScript code is executed during the page loading or when the browser fires an event. Oh, what does it mean by fires? So if your browser has been clicked by the user, then there will be one event. If one event is connected to another part, then yeah, it will be like executed. So all statements are executed at the page loading. Some statements just define function and then can be called later. So functions call or code can be attached as event handlers via the text attributes. Let's say I want to make a logo. So I want the users, whoever see my company logo, they will click it. Then the image, which is the logo.gif, okay, I put it into the src, and then I will have this one on click. So on click, it means when you click on your mouse. And what will happen? There will be one alert. So what we know about alert was, it is the alert. This one. So we have alert to show the pop-up of the JavaScript. But it seems a little bit strange because can I use something like the natural language on click with the alert click like this one? So we will check it later. And my answer is yes, it is possible. So we can call the JavaScript function from the event handler. In this example, you will learn how to deal with static external files. Static means when you have your image, when you have your JavaScript, when you have your CSS, it is always in your local. Now, I would like to ask you to create a new folder static as a child of the parent folder basic JS. So this parent folder, okay, so now if you look at this one, there will be two basic JS. So you can go here and make a new folder. So the new folder will be static. New directory, static. And you can see the left, sorry, I cannot enlarge. Now you can see there's one folder static. And what will we do with this static? In the first one, we just create a folder static, and the second one, we try to separate the files. So you can have the image file, you can have the JavaScript file, you can also have some document files. For example, Word or PDF. It is available also in the web. So for separating the files, I would like to recommend you to separate the two folders, okay, image and JavaScript. So in the folder static, I will make a new directory, image, and the other is JS. Now you will see that there are two additional folder. For this folder, it will be only image, but the JS, it will be only JavaScript. Now, what I want to explain is about the settings of UI. So make sure that your static URL, or yeah, we can say that this is the statement to show where is the static folder. So this is the static folder. And yeah, we want to define where is your static folder. And then in the static root, we want to use the base directory and the static files. So let's see. I already have my image and JS folder. So what I need to do next is go to setting. And in this setting, oh, okay, as you can see, now it has one static URL. It is the static. Oh, I'm not sure if it is okay or not. Let's see. I'm afraid that it is already. Yeah, we need to call the OS because it depends on your operating system. For example, if your operating system is Mac, it will have different path with Windows. So I would like to suggest you to put import OS, because in the new Django they don't have the OS. So you need to manually input the OS here. And what I'm going to check here is the static file or the static URL is from the folder static. Yeah, they will check this folder static. And then I need to state that the path join is based on the base directory plus static. What is base directory? Yeah, when we have this base directory, it means we are making the directory for this project. So the base directory here means the C users IME PyCharm 2022. Now you can replace or you can modify the index.html with the below code. So I will go to the index. Oops. Now it's a little bit complicated, but it's still just common JavaScript. I would like to get the logo.gif. So it means you can go to your internet browser. Okay, let's say I want to get logo.gif. Okay, can I see what kind of logo? Ooh, TikTok, Google, and so on. Okay, let me check. Can we move? Oh, okay, this is good. Yeah. Let me get this one. This is so trendy. So you can save this one as an image. I think this one, image. So you can save as an image. And now it is an GIF format. So you can have the logo.gif and you can put it into the project folder that you use for the basic JS. So in my case, okay, now I'm entering my folder. Yeah, I have the basic JS, and then I have the static, and then I have the image. So in the image, let me just use the logo.gif. And okay, let me run. Okay, now I can embed this picture on my HTML file, and it has been uploaded to the server. Okay. Okay, this is so big. Okay, it is a static image, and yeah, we want to get from the logo.gif. The alternative is if there is no image, then the what something show up there will be my image. Let me change. So let's say I'm changing the image, not logo.gif, but logo 123. Okay, so I change this name from logo.gif into logo 123. What happened? If I refresh, now you will see the text my image. The text my image is here. It is the alternative. So if you cannot find the image, show the message my image. So you can change this one. For example, no picture on your hard drive. For example, like this. So if you cannot find your picture, then it will show you the message that you just created. So this is the meaning by ALT, alternative. So if you click on your picture, whatever, or when I click if I click the button, or if I click this logo, then yeah, it will check the test function. What is the test function? Okay, this is to give the message. What is the message? This is the parameter. And what is the parameter? It is click. Okay. Then if I want to click on, okay, I want to click on the image and it shows click like this. Okay. So let me change. Let me change back to this logo. And then if I run this, okay, now if I click, then you will see click. Okay. That's a simple JavaScript. Okay. Okay, I guess this is time to stop.